A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review, which of course starts with a drink of whiskey. Now today I am reviewing The Drive-In by Joe R. Lansdale. Now Joe R. Lansdale is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated American authors out there. He writes comedy, he writes horror, he writes westerns, he writes thrillers, he writes kind of noir novels, but no one really talks about him all that much, and that's a shame because he is an absolutely fantastic author. Now, The Drive-In is one that had been on my radar for quite some time. I actually have the omnibus edition with all three Drive-In novels in kind of one. But I was on vacation and I had my Kindle on my phone. So I thought, why not? Now, the reason I read this was because when I go to bed at night, I have to listen to an audiobook. If I don't have something playing in my ear when I go to bed, my mind just fucking runs amok and I find it very, very difficult to sleep. So one night, I'm like, you know what? I've got The Drive-In, the Audible version. Let's see what it's like. Usually, after about a chapter or two, I am out like a light. I listen to at least 3/4 of this book before I'm like, I've got to stop and actually get some sleep. Like, this thing had me gripped, which made me want to actually read it for myself, which is what I did, and now I'm going to discuss it with you. There are going to be spoilers. Just kind of keep that in mind. If you don't want any spoilers, go to another video. They're all fucking awesome. But let's just jump right into the next episode of...
Read a fucking book. 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 People.
What is The Drive-In about? Well, it's about a drive-in. We have 4 friends that the narrator is kind of like the leader of the group to an extent. And then we have his friends, Bob, who is like this kind of cowboy high schooler guy. We have Willard, who is older than the rest of the group, hangs out at a bar, but kind of likes talking to them. He kind of is the street smarts. We have Randy, who is the nerd of the group, this scrawny little black guy. And every Friday night, Randy, Bob, and Jack, I want to say Jack is the main character. If it's not his name, whatever. They go to this drive-in movie theater called The Orbit. The Orbit has 6 screens, and every Friday they play this horror movie marathon, and these kids are obsessed with horror films. So the book starts with them on a Saturday morning. They've come away from The Orbit, and they've gone to this bar that the guy serves them beer, even though they're underage. Willard's there, and kind of shit goes down. Willard gets into a fight with this other guy, and they're kicked out of the bar. And Willard reveals to the gang, so to speak, that he's been fired from his job, and that he's going to leave town, and that maybe this coming Friday we can all go and see these horror movies together, because Willard's never been, even though these guys go kind of every fucking week to see these horror movies at the Orbit Drive-In movie theater. We get a little bit of backstory of the narrator, his family life, that kind of a thing, but Friday rolls around. We find out that Bob has been dumped by his girlfriend. He caught his girlfriend cheating on him. And there's a slight hint that Randy, the weedy kind of black kid, might have homosexual tendencies towards Willard. It's never fully explored, and it doesn't really matter. You can take it however you want, which is the beauty part of Joe R. Lansdale's writing. You can take it however you want to take it. So they go to the orbit. So Bob is in his truck, and they have snacks, they have beer, the whole kind of Megillah for a fucking night of watching horror movies on the big screen at the drive-in. While they're at the drive-in, a comet kind of appears and cuts the drive-in movie theater off from the rest of the world, I guess, and it becomes its own little kind of area. People can't leave, because if they leave, they touch this darkness that kind of melts their bodies. And what ultimately happens is the people in the drive-in kind of devolve into these psychotic, cannibalistic fucking weirdos, and the different screens are different areas that are separated from one another. The way to not kind of become these cannibalistic psychos is by eating and drinking, and the only food is junk food from the concession stand at the drive-in, soda, popcorn, that kind of a thing. The narrator starts to kind of go a little bit weird, but his friend Bob has beef jerky that his father made, and the beef jerky with the proteins and whatnot brings them kind of back around to a state of normalcy. However, Randy and Willard have become fucking lunatics, and what ultimately happens is they take over the concession stand, they fucking kill the guy in the concession stand, and they kill a whole lot of people. And they get hit by this weird lightning that is coming from the darkness itself outside of the drive-in. It's hitting the orbit sign and then hitting the concession stand. And they get struck by this lightning and become fused together into this entity known as the Popcorn King. And the Popcorn King tries to kind of take over the drive-in through cannibalism and whatnot. This book was fucking nuts, and I loved every single second of it. Ultimately, what ends up happening is the Popcorn King is destroyed, and Bob and Jack, as well as this guy called Crier, who is basically the guy that walks around and gives information to everyone, like a town crier. They manage to survive the drive-in. The comet comes back and the drive-in is put back into regular time and space. Or is it? Because when they drive out of the drive-in, they discover that there is a fucking T-Rex, and we get this idea that the drive-in movie theater has been displaced in time and space. And that sets up for the drive-in 2 and the drive-in 3, which I haven't read, but I will and review. But Joe R. Lansdale's The Drive-In was a just fucking good time. It was batshit crazy. You kind of get this feeling, like there's some great character moments, but then you get these descriptions of like a father who is kind of going crazy and running across the rooftops of cars as his little, like, 10-year-old daughter watches. And as he's running across the roof, someone shoots him and he dies. And then the daughter goes, "That's 2 points." And everyone's going fucking mental. And that little girl ends up getting the shit kicked out of her and then her body eaten. So, you know, take of it what you will. But these kind of books are just fun. They're not classically written. They're not even well written. Joe R. Lansdale, I love him as an author. he's not a good writer. But you look over that because the stories that he writes are just so fucking awesome. So that is The Drive-In by Joe R. Lansdale. Highly recommend this one if you get a chance to read it, however you can. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that good stuff. But most importantly, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Take a drink. Watch a movie, preferably at a drive-in movie theater if you can. But just go read a fucking book, people.